This is Obsidian ASMR. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future videos. Hey, and welcome back to another Obsidian ASMR video. And today we will be, or this evening, delving back into the Batman universe, and more specifically, the Batman Rogues Gallery, with Poison Ivy. Real name, Pamela Lillian Isley. She first appeared in Batman issue 181 in June of 1966. So a little late to the show. In fact, 20 years late to the show compared to the original Batman comic. She was created by Robert Kanigher and Carmine Infantino. She's a misanthropic botanist and biochemist who possesses a poisonous touch, enhanced physical abilities, and a supernatural control over plant life. The thing that gives her these powers is something known as the green, which effectively has been described or elaborated on over the years as some kind of extraterrestrial, interplanetary force. So basically it's really vague, and I think purposefully vague to give her a kind of mystique. The poison ivy that I've got here is the depiction that I grew up with from Batman the Animated Series. You know I talk about it a lot, and if you're a Batman fan, you should be watching that show. It's not just for kids. It's very, very, very good. So, she's Pamela. Let's call her Pamela, or Pam, to her friends. Is a bit of an eco-terrorist. So she wouldn't be amiss in the modern world with Just Stop Oil and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, she's always been kind of drawn in this one-piece leotard kind of costume, adorned with vines and leaves and with various different skin tones, so she can be, as she is depicted here, as white, all the way through to like quite green skin to match her outfit, and the powers that she possesses. But she's always a redhead, which again is quite interesting because in nature, vibrant colours are usually, especially on plant life, either an attractive element for insects or pollinators, or it's in animals, it's typically a sign that whatever it is poisonous, which very much goes with the character's motif. So she can flip from being portrayed as one of the typical supervillains or rogues in the Batman mythology, or she can be a bit of an anti-heroine in a similar vein to Harley Quinn, who has also become in recent years, or in the last couple of decades, a bit of a love interest for Poison Ivy. Famously, she was portrayed by Uma Thurman in the critically panned but guilty pleasure of mine, Batman and Robin. It was very kind of like weirdly alpha female vibes. She went from this kind of dithering biologist, very kind of timid, didn't like confrontation, to being very cocky, very sensual and sure of herself, you know. And the line that always sticks out for me from that film was, as I told Lady Freeze when I pulled her plug, "This is a one-woman show," which ultimately flips Mr. Freeze against Ivy in the film, because obviously it was a double cross. But Uma Thurman isn't the only person that has portrayed her in the very, very good TV series Gotham. She is portrayed by Claire Foley, Maggie Gea, and Peyton List. And what they did with her in that series was quite weird, because she's kind of like a second string character or supporting character. But she goes through this kind of maturation from being like a tween all the way through to like an adult in the space of a couple of seasons, and it's to do with the powers of the green and all that kind of stuff. She has a couple of episodes, but I never think, or if I remember correctly, I never thought that she was a major villain. She was just kind of there because Gotham was trying to be quite grounded rather than take on all the mystical elements that have often been attributed to some of Batman's rogues gallery. I tried to do it a bit more like the Christian Bale, not the Michael Keaton versions, and the Christopher Nolan series. In the DC animated universe, which is this one, she was voiced by Diane Pershing, which is the one that I remember the most. But if, like me, you played a lot of the Batman Arkham video game franchise, there she was voiced by Tasia Valenza. And that's all of the interpretations that we've had so far. It's interesting that Poison Ivy was actually created after or during the Batman TV show with Adam West. So her character wasn't really portrayed in it along with Catwoman or, the Penguin or other very famous Batman villains. It's a shame, really. She would have fit in very well. And speaking of that, one of her creators, Carmine Infantino, has previously commented that the only reason she came about was because of the Catwoman on the Batman show. Effectively, they wanted more female villains like this. So, he created, different variations, like, I think he said he was the one behind the Silver Fox and Batgirl, etc., etc., the original Batgirl that was on there, where, there was an appetite for those kind of female villains at the time. Not Batgirl, of course. Batgirl was a help. But yeah, her origin story was actually not depicted until 22 years later in Neil Gaiman, who is a very good writer. His short story, Pavane, which was Secret Origins number 36. Effectively, in that short story, Pam, decides to declare herself the Mother Nature's daughter and the rightful ruler of the world. So, totally not a narcissist or psychopath in any way. That's just what people do nowadays. So she was a bit ahead of the curve. I'm joking. Obviously, that is not what people do. That is, megalomaniac levels of narcissism. So, yeah. But, yeah, it's in that story that we find out that her powers were gifted to her by this extraterrestrial force known as the Green. And that's basically it for that. I mean, as you can probably tell, she's got that kind of, in this interpretation, depicted in the pop vinyl, she's got that really kind of classy 1940s hairstyle, which is associated with, like Marilyn Monroe and other, style icons and symbols of the day. So she is often considered one of the most beautiful characters within the DC continuity, and has a reputation, as I kind of alluded to in Batman and Robin, as a bit of a temptress. So another quote that I'd love to share with you for this, from doing a little bit of research, is that writer J.T. Cruel, who was quite influential with Ivy's personality and developing it effectively, and he said, "The thing I love most about Poison Ivy is her walking that line between bastion of Mother Nature and psycho-eco-terrorist. She sees herself as the hand of Mother Nature. If Mother Nature were God, then Ivy would be her Jesus. She defends the defenseless nature of the world and truly believes in her cause. Maiming, mauling and mutilating are extreme measures, but it's nothing compared to what irredeemable cruelties humanity's done to the world of nature. Ivy always sees the greater good as she punishes those who deserve it." And I think there's a very poignant lesson to be learned from that, and I mean it's true of most of the Batman villains really, when you look at their backstory, which is everybody's the hero in their own story. Everybody feels justified when they're waging a crusade or campaign for revenge or fighting the good fight. Another prime example of this is like Azrael. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to draw too many parallels to the modern world, but there is a lot of anxiety around, rightly so, around the Earth and the climate emergency that we find ourselves in. And there is that kind of question of where is the line with it? Is there a line? Is it more important to make sure that, regardless of the impact on human society, the Earth is preserved? And there will be some people that don't care what the cost is, because to them they value the Earth's longevity and sustainability as more important than, the lives of human citizens. And whilst, I don't want to get too far into it, it's a really interesting thought process to try to put yourself in their mindset, and to try to think, is it justified or is it not? And I don't think there's a correct answer really. It's dependent on your morality make a decision on that, but philosophically it's very, very interesting that she does have this kind of thin line between being a force for good and trying to preserve nature and protect it, protect the true voiceless, the literal voiceless in terms of plant life, and becoming a terrorist, and becoming kind of the thing that you hate by inflicting the same kind of damage and cruelty on humanity that led you to take up the fight to protect Mother Nature. Is Ivy really any better than the people that she despises, or that pushed her to those extremes? Interesting thought. But anyway, back to it. She got her first official mini-series, own solo series in 2016, which feels like yesterday, in Poison Ivy, Cycle of Life and Death, but this was then followed up by another graphic novel, Poison Ivy, Thorns, in 2021, which was almost only yesterday. And there's a new series, eponymously titled Poison Ivy, that started in 2022, but it's continuing to this day. So, other stuff to bear in mind, she's originated from either Gotham City or Seattle, so yeah, she has quite a lot of different team affiliations that we could talk about, with Birds of Prey, the Injustice League, Secret Society of Supervillains, Suicide Squad, Gotham City Sirens, which is probably the most famous one, and Justice League United. And she's formed close partnerships with Harley Quinn, who also had a romantic interest, and Catwoman. So, and that's kind of part of the Gotham City Sirens element. So what do we know about her? She trained as a promising botanist under Marc Legrand before effectively he got her caught up in a crime, and he attempted to poison her with herbs. She survived the attempt on her life, and that's where she acquired this natural immunity to all natural toxins and diseases, which again is quite a lot like what happened in Batman and Robin, where she was helping this mad scientist as a kind of intern or subordinate. Then she stumbles across the fact that he's using her work, her research, to make, well, in the film it's Bane, and to sell the super soldiers of the Bane project to the highest military bidder on the black market. She gets very frustrated by it, and then he tries to kill her by throwing all of these noxious chemicals and poisons on top of her, and burying her in the ground, but then she's reborn again with the powers. So yeah, her full title is Dr. Pamela Lillian Isley, PhD, and she grew up in a wealthy and emotionally distant family, which is again quite an interesting parallel to real life, but I will put a pin in that one and leave that there. She's a shy girl, easily seduced by her professor, Dr. Jason Woodrue. And this is I should specify, the first version was pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then the second version that I'm retelling here is the post-crisis event that retconned a lot of her backstory. So Woodrue injects her with poisons and experiments drove her insane and almost killed her twice. But effectively, she survived, got enraged at the betrayal, and is often seen to suffer very violent mood swings. So she began then her criminal career by holding Gotham City to ransom, stating that she would suffocate it with spores in the air unless, she got what she wanted. But, good old Batman turns up, stops her, and then that kind of starts her obsession with Batman. Because she can control pretty much everybody with her toxins and pheromones and whatnot, apart from him, because apparently he's just got such a strong will and focus. So yeah, it's during this time that she develops that power to kill people with a kiss through toxins transferred through the thin layers of skin at her lips, which is what gives them and gives everybody the discoloration around the lips, because it's basically closer, or the blood vessels are closer to the skin. That was a big thing again in the Batman and Robin movie, where she killed a load of people by kissing them on the lips, and then she thinks she's killed Robin, played by Chris O'Donnell, but it turns out that he was wearing rubber lips, so she looks very indignant and angry that she didn't kill him. There's a lot of tossing and turning with her backstory, and saying that effectively she just wants to buy a load of land and live there in peace with her plants, etc. Trying to create a second Garden of Eden, that kind of thing, but they soften her backstory quite a lot, turn her more into a conservationist that keeps getting brought back into the fight through humanity's interventions, or in the case of the second Garden of Eden, it getting firebombed, that kind of thing. But yeah, she does have quite a long story, and it's quite interesting when you read into it. I won't go into too much detail on this, because I could be talking for quite some time, but I think something that everybody will want to talk about, or want me to talk about, is her appearances in the Harley Quinn comic series, which depicts Harley and Ivy as best friends and then lovers. And this has been depicted quite extensively in the Kaylee Cuoco Harley Quinn series that has been running, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. But effectively, Ivy always seems to help Harley Quinn out on several adventures. And yeah, it does seem that the two of them are kind of working together to, help each other out, that kind of thing. I think one of the most touching moments was in the series or the comic series Heroes in Crisis. Effectively, in that series, Harley Quinn told Poison Ivy to go to the Sanctuary, a mental health institution, the Sanctuary. But Ivy is killed, along with several others, when Wally West loses control of the Speed Force. But Wally manages to revive Poison Ivy, but only into like a rose. And part of that rose given to Harley. And effectively, like, she struggles to regenerate from that point, but with Harley's aid, and care and attentiveness, Poison Ivy does get fully restored and revived, but also creates an identical plant duplicate of herself, which leads to kind of like a 3-woman team of 2 Ivies and Harley, etc., going on the run together. Or sorry, rather the Ivy double going on a run with Harley, leaving the real Poison Ivy feeling kind of betrayed and abandoned by Harley Quinn. Yeah. Effectively, that one is kind of like a scorned lover tale, but also kind of like a misunderstanding, which ultimately leads to the duplicate Poison Ivy sacrificing themselves to restore the couple together, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's interesting. And there has been that kind of romantic element with Poison Ivy and Batman, because there seems to always be with female villains and Batman, you know. I mean, he recently, as I said in the last episode, married Catwoman in the DC Rebirth continuity. But the one that everybody wants to talk about here is Harley Quinn. You know, and I should give more detail on that before we close out. So, Ivy basically helps Harley Quinn to recover and saves her from the abusive relationship that she has with the Joker. Poison Ivy really, really doesn't like the Joker. And in the final storyline of the Gotham City Siren series, Harley suggests that Ivy may be in love with her, which is an accusation, I should say, that kind of leaves Poison Ivy speechless. It does build from there in that continuity, but it doesn't really get touched on again until June 2015, where a lot of, and that was because the new 52 continuity, which didn't do very well, had been rebooted with DC Rebirth, but the fan base was so keen to see what happened between Harley and Poison Ivy for that LGBTQIA plus representation in the Batman universe that, as I say, in 2015 they picked it back up. And that was in the Harley Quinn series written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. But basically they state in that yes, the two of them are in a relationship, but it's not monogamous. Interesting choice. Works for some people, I guess. There are some interesting tales that go on, especially in issue 8 of the Harley Quinn series of comics. I won't tell you what the setting was, but effectively Ivy does admit that she loves Harley Quinn more than any other person on Earth, but she's more dedicated to saving the environment, and that is, in a sense, her first love. And the only other thing to note on that relationship in the comics is in Injustice 2, issue 70, in an alternate dimension or universe, Poison Ivy basically makes a throwaway comment that she's married to Harley Quinn. And that, in a nutshell, is the very extensive, I guess, for beginners, lesson on Poison Ivy and the character. Did you learn anything new? Did you know it all? Are you a massive fan of Pamela Isley, Dr. Pamela Isley, PhD? Or would you prefer me to whisper about another character from the Batman universe? And if you would, comment it down below. It's a great day for me, and one where I feel myself being very, very humbled by your support as we've hit 800 subscribers. 800 on the channel, which is wild to me. You know, this time last year I was probably at about 150. So it's incredible that so many of you love the content and you want to see more, and hopefully you'll stick with me as more series come out and I try new things and all that kind of stuff. We're getting there. I haven't forgotten about that 3DO mic. So again, I just wanted to say a big heartfelt thank you to all of you, and hello to all of you new subscribers. If you have subscribed in the last couple of weeks, why not drop a comment saying hi down below? People like Kesvir will tell you that I absolutely love to talk to you and hear from you. So please don't be shy. And other than that, all that I've got left to say